What if the 1 hour that could save your life happens before the rest of the world even opens its eyes? What if every morning you have been sleeping through the very moment your destiny was quietly waiting for you? You have probably heard that the most successful people on earth rise before dawn. Maybe you have even set your alarm at night, full of hope and good intentions, only to wake up 3 hours late, covered in regret, telling yourself, tomorrow I will start. But tomorrow has become a habit, and that habit is costing you everything you have ever wanted. I want to tell you about a man who had nothing. No degree, no savings, no one fighting in his corner, no one cheering his name. He lived in darkness, literally and figuratively, until one pre-dawn moment cracked his life wide open. He discovered that 5 o'clock in the morning was not just a time on a clock, it was a doorway. And when he finally walked through it, nothing in his life was ever the same again. Stay with me until the very end of this story, because what you are about to hear might be the most important thing you have come across in a very long time. His name was Rajan. He was 34 years old, and he lived the kind of life that most people would rather not think about too deeply. Every night at 9 o'clock, Rajan walked to a small storage facility on the edge of a dusty commercial district, where he worked as a night watchman. He sat alone in a plastic chair under a flickering fluorescent tube light, watching shadows on the wall, counting the slow hours until 6 in the morning when his replacement arrived and he could drag his exhausted body home. His room was a 10-foot square space above a tea stall. The walls were permanently damp from the monsoon that seemed to never fully leave. The ceiling fan wobbled so dangerously that Rajan never turned it past the lowest speed. His meals were usually whatever the tea stall owner left for him at the end of the day. Leftover rice, a bit of lentil soup, sometimes nothing at all. If you looked at Rajan's life from the outside, you might have called it stable. He had a job, he had a room, he was surviving. But Rajan knew the truth. He was not stable, he was stuck. And surviving is not the same as living. He had tried to move forward. He had applied for data entry positions at offices, delivery routes for courier companies, shop assistant roles at clothing stores. Every employer asked the same question: do you have any relevant experience or qualifications? And every time, Rajan had to say no. He had been a night watchman for 9 years. That was the beginning and the end of his resume. 9 years of the same plastic chair. 9 years of the same flickering light. 9 years of watching the world from a distance. His younger sister, who lived with their widowed mother in their hometown 300 kilometers away, would call him every Sunday without fail. "Bye. When are you coming home? Mama keeps asking about you. She says you sound tired on the phone. She worries." Rajan would sit up straight and force lightness into his voice. "Tell her I am fine. Tell her things are moving forward." But nothing was moving. He was like a wheel spinning furiously in wet mud. Enormous effort, zero distance covered. The thing that haunted him most was not the poverty itself. It was the feeling of invisibility. The feeling that the world was a fast-moving river, and he was standing frozen on the bank, watching it rush past, unable to figure out how to step in. He worked while others slept, and slept while the world worked. His entire existence was flipped upside down from everyone else's. And the worst part, the part that kept him awake even when he should have been resting, was that he could not see any possible way to flip it back. He was not lazy. He worked hard every single night. But hard work in the wrong direction does not take you anywhere worth going. Then one December morning, just before 5 o'clock, while Rajan was finishing his final round of the storage facility, before handing over to the morning shift, An elderly man arrived early to open the printing shop next door. The man's name was Mr. Subramaniam. He was in his late 60s, white-haired, unhurried, and he carried a small cloth bag that held a thermos of hot tea and a worn leather notebook. Rajan had seen him before, arriving early on various mornings, but had never spoken to him. That morning, perhaps out of sheer loneliness, perhaps because something inside him was finally desperate enough to reach out to anyone, Rajan said quietly, "Sir, why do you come so early every morning? Your shop does not open until 8 o'clock." The old man smiled without looking up from unlocking his door. "I do not come early for the shop," he said simply. "I come early for myself." Rajan blinked. "What do you mean, sir?" Mr. Subramaniam turned and looked at him properly for the first time. His eyes were calm and sharp at the same time. "How long have you been a night watchman, son?" 9 years, Rajan said. The words felt like stones in his mouth. The old man nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something he had already suspected. "And in 9 years, how much has your life changed?" The question did not come with cruelty. It came with something much harder to bear: honesty. Rajan did not answer. There was no answer that would not break something inside him. "Come," the old man said gently. "Sit with me for a few minutes before you go home." They sat on a low concrete step outside the printing shop as the sky began its slow shift from deep black to the first bruised shade of blue. Mr. Subramaniam poured 2 small cups of tea from his thermos and handed one to Rajan without asking whether he wanted it. 40 years ago, the old man began, wrapping both hands around his own cup, I was in a position not very different from yours. A young man with no connections, no money, and no clear path forward. I swept floors in a textile factory for 2 years. I slept late because I worked late. I woke up tired because I went to bed tired. And I told myself every week that things would improve on their own. He paused. They did not improve on their own. Rajan stared at his tea. So what changed? I changed the hours I gave to myself, Mr. Subramaniam said. One morning, I started arriving at the factory before anyone else. Not because I was told to, not because I expected a reward, but because I had decided to use those quiet hours to read, to practice, to think. Within 3 months, I had taught myself bookkeeping from a library book. Within a year, I had moved off the factory floor and into the accounts room. Within 5 years, I had saved enough to open my own small print shop. He looked at Rajan carefully. The secret was never talent. The secret was the hours between 5 and 7 in the morning, when the world is still asleep and you belong entirely to yourself. Rajan felt something move inside his chest, something he had not felt in a very long time, something cautious and fragile and unfamiliar, hope. But sir, Rajan said, I come home from my night shift completely exhausted. By the time I reach my room, I can barely think straight. I know, the old man said. So here is what I want you to try. Tonight, instead of staying up after your shift ends, go to sleep the moment you get home. Set your alarm for 11:30 in the morning. Give your body 5 hours of sleep. That is enough to function. Then wake up, eat something simple, and from 12 noon to 2 in the afternoon, treat those 2 hours as the most important appointment of your day. Because they are. He opened his notebook and wrote 3 things on a blank page in careful handwriting. 1 skill to learn, 1 chapter to read, 1 goal to write down and look at every single day. He tore the page free and placed it in Rajan's hand. Do this for 90 days without stopping. Then come back and show me what is different. Rajan looked at the page in his hand. And if nothing changes? The old man picked up his thermos and rose slowly to his feet. In 40 years, he said, I have never once seen a man take his mornings back and have nothing change. Not once. He unlocked his shop door and disappeared inside. Stay with me here, because this next part is the heart of everything. That same evening, for the first time in years, Rajan went to bed with something other than exhaustion. He went to bed with intention. He set his alarm for 11:30, turned his phone face down, and lay in the dark with the old man's words turning over in his mind. The next morning, when the alarm rang, his body did not want to move. Every muscle argued against it, but he sat up anyway. The first week was genuinely difficult. There is no other honest way to say it. Rajan's body had spent 9 years on a night schedule, and it did not surrender that pattern without a fight. He sat at his small table, the same table where he usually ate leftover rice, with his phone propped against the wall, watching a free typing speed tutorial he had found online. His fingers fumbled, his concentration drifted, but he did not stop. When the 2 hours were finished, he wrote in a small notebook he had bought for 12 rupees. Day 1, done. Day 2, done. Day 3, done. By the end of the first week, his typing speed had already begun to improve. He started a free online course in Microsoft Excel and basic data management. He had never touched these tools seriously before, but something surprising began to happen. The formulas and functions that had looked like a foreign language started to make sense. The logic underneath them became visible, and for the first time in 9 years, Rajan felt something he had almost forgotten the name of: progress. On day 30, he applied for a data entry position at a small logistics company nearby. He was rejected. On day 45, he applied at a different company. Another rejection. He wrote in his notebook, Day 45, rejected again, starting again tomorrow. But on day 58, the interviewer at a third company paused when she saw the self-completed Excel certification Rajan had included with his application. You taught yourself this? She asked, looking up from the paper. Yes, Rajan said. I work on it every day during my personal hours. She made a small note on her file. 3 days later, his phone rang with a number he did not recognize. He had been offered a junior data entry position, daytime hours, a salary almost double what he earned as a night watchman. He sat down on the edge of his bed after the call ended and stayed very still for a long time. Then he went to his notebook and wrote, Day 61. Something changed. On day 90, Rajan walked back to the printing shop before sunrise. Mr. Subramaniam was already on the concrete step, notebook open, thermos beside him. He looked up when he saw Rajan approaching and was quiet for a moment. Then he simply nodded. The slow, certain nod of someone who had never doubted the outcome. Rajan told him everything. The rejections, the early mornings, the notebook, the phone call. The old man listened to all of it, poured him a cup of tea, and said, Now remember, the most important thing of all. The morning hours gave you this job, but this job is not the destination. Keep the morning hours sacred every day for the rest of your life. That is where everything else will be built. 1 year after that conversation on the concrete step, Rajan had been promoted to accounts assistant. He had moved into a better room with a proper bed and a fan that did not wobble. He had brought his mother to the city for a full medical checkup and paid for every part of it himself. And every single morning, without exception, he was awake and building while the rest of the city slept. When his new colleagues asked what his secret was, he always gave the same answer. I stopped letting the morning happen to me. I started happening to the morning. Here is what Rajan's story teaches us, and why it matters so much. The hours between 5 and 7 in the morning are not ordinary hours. They are protected hours. The phone is quiet. No one has made demands yet. Your mind is clear, and your willpower is at its strongest point of the entire day. Whatever you build in those 2 hours belongs entirely to you. 2 hours every morning is 14 hours every week. It is 60 hours every month. It is 730 hours across a single year. That is the equivalent of more than 90 full working days that most people spend sleeping past their alarm. In 1 year, you are either building something or you are not. Those morning hours are the difference. Every person who has ever built a life they are proud of has understood this truth in one form or another. The morning is the only part of your day that no one else can take from you. Guard it like it is the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Rajan had no advantage when his story began. No degree, no family connections, no savings, no mentor who handed him a business on a plate. He had a plastic chair, a flickering light, 9 years of going nowhere, and eventually a decision made before sunrise. That decision cost him nothing except the comfort of sleeping in, and it gave him back everything. You are watching this right now. That means you have access to knowledge. You have access to free tools, free courses, free stories like this one. The only question that matters is this: will you use what you already have before the world wakes up tomorrow morning? So here is your challenge. Tonight, before you sleep, set your alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning. Not 5:15, not 5:30, 5 o'clock exactly. Put your phone on the other side of the room so that you have to physically stand up to silence it. Choose the one thing you will build in your first hour. One skill, one course, one idea you have been carrying for months without acting on. Commit to it for 90 days without negotiation, and protect your bedtime the way you protect your most important possessions. If you scroll through your phone until midnight, you are stealing from your morning self. Wasted evenings are not rest. They are debt that your morning will have to repay. I will be honest with you about what the first week will feel like. It will be hard. Your body will resist. Your mind will offer you 100 reasonable-sounding excuses. You will wonder if any of this is truly worth the discomfort. It is, because real change is not one dramatic moment. It is a series of quiet mornings where you chose yourself over comfort, again and again, until that choice became your character. Rajan had nothing, and he built something real. You have more than he had when he started. The only variable now is what you decide to do tomorrow morning when that alarm rings. If this story moved something in you, if some part of you felt recognized in Rajan's struggle, then do not let that feeling disappear by morning. Drop a comment below right now and tell me one thing. What will you build in your first early morning hour tomorrow? I read every comment. Let us hold each other accountable together. Share this video with one person in your life who keeps saying they want to change things but never seems to start. Maybe today is the day this story reaches them at exactly the right moment. And if stories like this one speak to you, real people, real struggles, real wisdom, then you belong in our community. Join us at Wisdom Loom English, where every week we bring you stories of transformation and the hidden truths inside them. Hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss one. Your future self is already awake and waiting. Do not make them wait one more day.